Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Okay. I'm going over what happened this week with the Iran war issue. There are important portions I'm just going to share with you that are the most important, that have to do with the prophecies. Hey, Zoe, nice to see you. I mean, I know you haven't been able to catch our other ones, but okay, great. All right. Yes. So the things I'm going to share with you regarding the Iran war is going to be focused just on the most important thing, which is the Strait of Hormuz and the Kharg Island issue. Okay. It's 3 a.m. here. Zoe, are you a night owl? You must be a night owl. Yes, I was wondering. You're in Cyprus, right? I think so. Ah. Okay, everybody that's coming in, as you can see, we have our own mics this time. We've kind of upgraded a bit, so we're not having to crowd around the one the one mic. We have our own now. Okay, and so we're going to start with what happened with. I have a video, that a clip from that actually one of my followers, Tarot Man, actually posted and tagged me in, and so I'm using that. And so I'm going to start with that information. It's actually from 10 days ago, but it still applies. Okay, so let me try bringing that up. We'll see how it goes here. I have it at the spot. Hopefully there won't be ads, but I can't promise you. Okay, so let's hear what it has to say here.
Everything that is happening indicates that the United States is preparing a springboard for a ground assault on the northern and northwestern parts of Iran, with the help of armed terrorist groups, Kurdish militants, and a large group of militant Baluchi, who are still demanding the independence of their province in Iran. At the same time, while the Iranian army will repel enemy attacks in the north of the country, American troops will strike in the southern part of Iran, to seize nuclear facilities, ports in the Persian Gulf, as well as the Iranian coast of the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, I just want to stop it there to tell you that obviously we saw that happen last a week or so, when the CIA was trying to promote, trying to get the Kurds to come in, right? And that's where they would have come in, at the northern border of Iran. Well, the Kurds rejected doing that. They said, in fact, I just saw that today, that somebody had interviewed one of the Kurds leaders, and he had said, we are not guns for hire. So makes sense, right? And so that part of their plan, I don't think, went over the way they wanted it to. And we still see that they are planning boots on the ground. That's an important portion where they're talking about, well, we're going to distract them up in the north, the Iranian army, and then we're going to come in from the Strait of Hormuz up here. Our I guess our Marines or somebody. Don't know how well that's going to go over. There's those mountains there, very hard terrain to get through. Especially, I don't even think our military has actually even been in Iran, and especially in that region. To be honest, I don't think so. But you all, maybe something on that. I don't know.
Well, it's very hard to get into Iran because it's surrounded by mountain ranges, and it's literally, most of the country that matters is in this bowl. So it's really not that easy to even get into the important parts of Iran, and any parts that aren't very mountainous, from my understanding, would just be choke points anyways. So
yeah,
I don't see it as being a very easy military operation, period, to get into Iran, no matter who it may be.
Yes. So we have This was just the overall thing they were planning, the US was planning 10 days ago. Now we know something else happened. Okay, so I'm going to go into that. There's a couple of pieces on this, but let me go into the next thing I need to go into. This is with Annie Davis and Larry Johnson. And this was yesterday.
Well, one of the worries I have, this just popped up on my phone here a second ago. Wall Street Journal is reporting just less than an hour or about an hour ago that the Pentagon is moving additional Marines warships to the Middle East. According to this article here, an element of amphibious readiness group attached to a Marine Expeditionary Unit, typically consisting of 5,000 Marines. The concern is, and the person that flagged this for me said this has bad vibes, that maybe we're thinking, hey, how's about it? We can't invade Iran. That's too big. But what we can do is take Kharg Island up in the top of the Persian Gulf, and that will solve the problem. If that's not, I mean, that we can, in fact, let us know why that caused you to laugh. But the concern is that they may be thinking about something stupid. Otherwise, why are we going to send at this point another 5,000 Marines into the Gulf? That has nothing to do with air power or missile power. What do you think?
Well, first I'm laughing. Okay, explain to me how those Marine ships get through the Strait of Hormuz, because they got to go through there to get up to Kharg Island. Number one, let's say they offload at Kharg Island. Well, there are no bunkers and secure facilities where you can hide when you're being bombarded with artillery and drones and missiles. So, I'd like somebody to walk through and explain how that operation works, because all it is a suicide mission for Marines. Or maybe they're saying, no. What we're going to do is we're going to land them on Iranian beaches there on the east part of the Strait of Hormuz.
By the way, for those who may not know, Kharg Island, you see this, you have to go through the strait that you mentioned here, and then this is Kharg right here. Kharg Island.
It's way up north, and it's within artillery.
That little dot.
It's within artillery range of Iran. So Iran can
right
just,
there. Let's see,
lace it with artillery with no problem.
That is 15 miles. From the shore. So artillery batteries in this direction here.
Okay, so you get the idea that this idea of Kharg Island being the next step, since the Kurds thing didn't work, I think. Yeah, there's some problems with that, as you can see in that map, that they're only 15 miles from the shore there, and well, easy for artillery to, attack. Oh, hello, Anne.
Hello. It's nice to see you again.
So that's what they started to talk about, was Kharg Island. Okay, this is our next big way to somehow get our people, our troops in on this island. Okay, so I'm going to show you what happened. Let me go into this. Okay, he has a piece here. This last night. Hold on. Break it there. Okay, there we go.
Executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Kharg Island. Our weapons are the most powerful and sophisticated the world has ever known, but for reasons of decency, I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. Then he talks about how he made the military this great one. Of course, the same thing about the biggest one and the best in the history of the world, etc. Then he says Iran's military and all others involved in this terrorist regime would be wise to lay down their arms and save what's left of their country, which isn't much. And listen, I mean, there's no question that Iran is not going to do this. There's no question.
Yeah. So they have done it. They struck Kharg Island last night, which would be sometime, I think, in the middle of the night where Iran is. And, well, there's nothing that they can, again, how are they going to do this? As I believe Larry Johnson said, how are you going to get the troops there? And he goes later into that about, oh, well, you could helicopter them in, drop them in on this island. And then the other problem is, how are you going to get them more ammunition,
food, water, medical supplies.
Yes. So I don't think they're thinking too well on this, for sure. Okay. So let me go back to, all right. I don't know if that's where I was. Okay. Let me see here. Finish up with this. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I want to. Did we already do this part? Yeah. So let me go to 52.
Yeah, right around there. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're right there. Yeah.
Then I'll get there.
There you go.
That's okay, because it's not up yet. All right. Okay. So now let me go back over here and share this again for you. And then we're going to play this part.
And I think what you said is entirely plausible, because Ted Postal has talked last July that they had the ability covertly to be doing this if they had an incentive to race to the bomb. So they could well be doing that right now.
Yeah.
As John Mearsheimer said in this video that we have here, Gary, if you can throw that one up from Mearsheimer, he said that he's worried that maybe Israel, before they get to that point, could think of it.
I think this is a remarkably dangerous situation. If the Israelis lose in Iran, they will be fully aware that they lost. They will be fully aware that they will have enraged the Iranian body populace, right? They will be fully aware that an Iran with nuclear weapons will be very, very dangerous from Israel's perspective, and they will go to great lengths to prevent that. And if they can't prevent it through conventional means, then we get to a scenario where they think about using nuclear weapons.
So I worry, if your thought experiment is right, that Israel may be aware of it too. And could we be in a position where nuclear weapons could be used here? I mean, we've been thinking that the Russia-Ukraine war was where the risk was, but what if it's right here because of what we've done?
Yeah, no, I actually think it's a high risk. But the calculation for Israel is that they forget, even if they use a nuke, even if they use two, we used two on Japan. Did that destroy all of Japan? Heavens no. Japan was still intact as a country and still had millions of people. So yeah, Israel could do something. They could end up killing 10 million Iranians. And what's that going to accomplish? Number one, Iran with its conventional weapons has already got a dead hand in place. And Israel's small. All Iran has to do is destroy Tel Aviv and Haifa. You've wiped out 55% of Israel's population. They only have to hit two cities. Well, hell, to wipe out 55% of Iran's population, it's really not. Iran doesn't have the ability to do that. So I mean, there's that disparity in size.
Okay, important there. So two important things that I shared with y'all here. Nice, EBD. There's two important things I shared here that the reason why I picked these particular pieces was because boots on the ground. I mean, they've been floating that in Trump's administration for quite a while here, last couple weeks. And and then the Kharg Island issue, but also I'm going to add the third one is Israel could use a nuclear weapon, and they would be the most likely to use a nuclear weapon than any other country. Um, if you look at it from their point of view, if they're being totally destroyed to nothing, their last resort is going to be that, right? So, yeah. And so, with that, I'm going to share with you once again an important part with this information, these events that are culminating, okay, are coming towards this, that I want to share with you. Elder Joseph Vatopedi's, again, his phases of World War III. If this happens chronologically, I'm going to show you why this is important. Okay, so okay, this is really important because, and number 3 there, after, and now you'll see number 2, an attack by America and Israel against Iran is imminent. So that's already happened. Okay, we all know that. And other things happen here, according to Elder Joseph, that Russia will, there'll be other things happening. Albania, Croatia, all that in the Balkans. Then there's the Turkey-Russia thing. Now, in this, he's saying this is going to happen. The Russia-Turkey thing somehow is going to happen before he gets down. And number 3, the Russians go down south to help the Arab allies, especially Iranians. Now get this part. They will be attacked by the Americans. The Americans will have captured the coastal zone of Iran after a fierce struggle. But they will not be able to advance inside the country because of the great resistance they will receive. The Russians will sweep across Persia and destroy the American forces in the east. And then they'll go down further after that. So we all know that Russia is backing Iran quite strongly right now. So I just want to make sure you saw this, that because what's happening right now looks a lot like what's going to happen. Okay. Again, we don't know if this is chronologically going to happen this way, but so far, Elder Joseph's prophecies have been right. Okay. So we'll just go from there on that. Now, let's not forget that we talked about.
May I bring up one thing of importance?
Yes.
I hadn't really given it much thought before. This part where it says, then the Russians will go down south to help their Arab allies. And I thought this was interesting, mainly because I think about the Gulf states right now that have been talking to Russia, and, there was that whole talk, and the whole thing that kept being said by Ray McGovern was, oh, you can't ride 2 camels, Lavrov said, basically telling them they got to decide, you can't be trying to, appease both sides. You have to make a decision. And so I'm wondering if Russia going down is a part of the Gulf states and other Arab states' decisions regarding the whole Iran thing and the Strait of Hormuz and how they feel about America. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as a possible thing that maybe.
Yes. So what other allies does Russia have there besides Iran? Is it
not many?
Not many, but they did say, he said, especially Iran. So that's the important part.
Technically, not much of anything now, because after Syria fell, there hasn't really been a whole lot. Because Syria was kind of Syria and Iran were the 2 big ones for Russia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
on that point, where we talked about what Mearsheimer just talked about, Hi, Nico. I think Elder Joseph meant Iran, not Arabs. Oh, okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that I get a little confused because anytime I think of Arabs, I think of the Arabian Peninsula because that's where
the technical term.
That's where the term came from. So I think
Right.
of the Gulf states because those are all Arabs.
Right.
I don't think of outside of that as Arabs. I think of them as different. But
Right.
yeah, I agree. It's very possible that's what he meant.
Okay, so let's go back to what Mearsheimer said and the concerns about the Israel using the nuclear weapon. Let's go back to Elder Joseph, still in part 3. So I'm going to let you know that. Still in part 3. He says, right after it says Russia goes helps Iran and then ends up going through all those other Middle East countries down, and then it ends up, in Israel, outside of Israel. You'll notice the next thing he says, Elder Joseph says, is then there will be the first attempt to use nuclear weapons by the US and Israel. I just find that very interesting because everything that's happening right now seems to be going in the direction that he's talking about. So, and then he says, of course, but Russians will neutralize them, causing a global blackout of energy and communication, the EMP. Okay. So I found this really important because you know how it is when you start seeing things unfold, you see better what's going on or what the prophecies were talking about. Little by little, you start getting little pieces and you're thinking, oh, okay, this is going in this direction. Okay. So I thought that was important to share with you all because it just seems to be what the direction and what this is going. Okay.
Well, something I wanted to mention was the part where it said a global blackout after neutralizing. I'm wondering if neutralizing means just shutting down the power, but then why would that affect the whole world? Why not just the US? I'm inclined to believe that maybe with their defensive hypersonic missiles, they shoot them in the atmosphere and they explode before they can land anywhere, which would be a lot less dangerous for everybody. I mean, there would still be some nuclear fallout, but I think it wouldn't be as bad as if it landed and hit the dust and all that. But I don't know. I was just thinking about that.
I think it'll be the satellites taken out. Well, yeah, they can do that. I think that would make a lot of sense because that would affect, the globe, many areas. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Zoe. Yeah. So this is the update I have for you on what I think is going on, what the direction is going, it seems to me, from what I've been watching on this Iran. And of course, Trump was saying, oh, yes, we're done. We're finished. There's nothing else to bomb. We're all done. It's wrapped up.
And then meanwhile, he is crawling to his allies. You got to help us. I just saw that today. So, I don't know. He's saying two things.
Well, he's saying, oh, the Iranians are out of their drones. They don't have any left. We obliterated everything. And I'm thinking, does anybody really believe this? I mean, all you have to do is actually watch the news and you watch what's happening. And it's not what he's saying is happening, Zoe says that ties in with Seis Cosmos prophecies about devil's pumpkins. Yes, I'd forgotten about those. Yes, that's right. I haven't looked at that in a long time, but you have a good memory on that. Yes, he is not well. No kidding. I mean, what was the one that they just played today? Danny Davis played a little portion with Brian Kilmeade, which I don't watch Fox. Okay, like I said, I used to watch a long time, but not anymore. And he's like, well, how do you know that, we're going to be done with this war? How do you, I'll know. I have a feeling when it's going to happen. Oh, when's that? Oh, it's just when I'll feel it. I'll know when. What? When you don't have any money left, when the market crashes and we're all suffering because of your decision? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't feel well because he's sweating as he's seeing the stock markets dangle by a thread and our gas prices, staying stable, dangling by a thread. So, and his midterm says, being secured, slipping away through his grasp.
They just go by by feeling. Yes, yes, and their ideas, their dispensationalist ideas. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, they're trying to, obviously they're going to try to show that everything's okay. That's what everybody does in wars. Everything's great. We're doing great. We're going this. But reality, it's not quite that way. So this is important. That's why I wanted to share it with you. Those were the main pieces that I got out of this past week, because of course there's the usual back and forth and bomb is this and bomb that, but these three issues are really important and to watch out for in the coming weeks. I don't know how we're going to do the next few weeks as far as our country, considering weapons and all that. People who maybe are better with military stuff, if they're actually watching, can add their 2 cents on that. Because I keep hearing from the military members I listen to, the retired ones, they don't really have enough to last for more than 2 weeks or more.
I've heard that, like, I think they said 2 to 4 weeks if you really stretch. I think if you're really careful, but I mean, yeah, 2 to 3 weeks is when and I think that's what we're seeing, because if you're looking at the panic,
Well, it's already been 2 weeks.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and and if you look at Trump's reaction and this desperation to get other allies involved, I think it's pretty clear that, yeah, we're running out of ammunition, we're running out of the ability to do what we want to do, because he's wanting them to go in and help take the Strait of Hormuz, and I don't know if our allies are going to do that. But that would, and allies means, Europe, Japan, Korea, anyone.
And of course, they took the last THAAD defense system from South Korea. And maybe at this point, finally, South Korea will say, we don't want you back in here. Just leave us alone. But, regarding the Kharg Island, its desperation is pretty palpable from our side in our administration here. They're getting really desperate because they did not go into this with a strategy in a great way. They just thought everything hinged on, we're just going to eliminate their leader and everything was going to fall apart. And of course, they're doing what the Izzies want. Skibbity says, I think the Devil's Pumpkin prophetic instance is about the invention of satellites circling the planets.
Yeah, that's what it was referencing.
Okay.
I was going to say, that's kind of what that was about there.
Well, that's really neat.
Well, because remember, he had the things on the satellites and the things on the televisions and all that.
Everything. So with that, we realized they're going to Kharg Island. Why are they going there? Well, that's the main hub of 90% of the oil for the world, right? The globe is what I heard. So, of course, what are we going to try to do? We are going to try to steal now Iran's oil. We already did that with Venezuela, and now we want to do this.
Well, I somewhat agree, but I'm looking at this a little bit differently.
Okay.
You'll notice that capturing the Kharg Island, right?
Yeah.
Where the oil is, that mostly goes for Iran and is used for their economy. That was what caught my attention. I think this is.
It said 90% of other people's oil too.
Well,
90% of.
Yes,
yeah.
It was because they sell that oil, and that's where they get a lot of their money. Okay, that's where that's the big support for their economy.
Yeah.
To me, that said very much the U.S. being like, oh, well, you're gonna try to shoot down our economy. Well, then we're gonna shoot down yours. And so now it's like, well, either we get the oil and we use it for ourselves now, and it hurts Iran because they think, oh, there's no way they're going to blow that up themselves. So they're hoping that this will make them fold. But I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
So, and again, there's no plan on how we're going to do this.
No.
You know what? Are you going to it's just I don't really see how we're going to get troops there to secure that oil facility, you know, from the people of Iran. So
And then there's the 15, what was it, 15 miles. I mean, I guess if there were Navy SEALs in there, they could just swim to the coast eventually, but I don't know how they're going to do that
and not be shot in the water,
being shot. Yes, I don't know how they're going to do that without being
not
shot.
having mines blowing up below them. Who knows what? It's just ridiculous. I mean, we're sending in these people for what? Basically to become sitting ducks later,
Yeah.
even if they do make it. It's just not.
No,
It's a bad idea.
I agree. Yeah. So, does anybody have any thoughts on that before we move on to our next subject matter?
Should I throw in the thing about China for anyone interested in that real quick?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Of course, I've been keeping up with the whole China thing. They don't seem, analysts and such of Beijing don't seem very convinced that China is going to get involved at all. Yeah, I was going to ask about China. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured that some people might want to know so I made sure to search and see what was going on. They don't really seem interested on joining. They don't really seem interested. I mean, obviously, they've been condemning the attacks from U.S. and Israel. They want peace, and they're repeating the same things they have been saying. Some other analysts were saying that Beijing is actually sitting back and kind of basically taking notes on what the U.S. is doing. They're kind of using this as a way to figure out our strategies, what we do, and how we execute them. And they're probably trying to find weaknesses. So if they ever have to fight us over their province of Taiwan and such, then, um, they'll know how to handle us to some extent. It would be my guess. Calculate distance. Probably. I'm not really sure to what. I'm guessing it's a mix of things. Probably seeing how their own weapons at some point, if they're deployed from Iran, will work, how well they work, if there's anything they need to fix. Also, just seeing how a country like Iran is handling powers like Israel and America. I think it's a big mix of things. But they've been mostly doing fine as far as getting their stuff through the Strait of Hormuz still. But I am worried about our involvement and us instigating things. I'm not sure how China will take that. From what I was reading, the basic conclusion is this. China is very wary on being directly involved militarily in anything. They really don't prefer to do that. They're okay with supplying things, that's one thing, but to become directly involved is another.
Right.
So I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon unless something drastic happens.
Okay. So now we're going to go on to the astrology versus God's signs. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had a couple comments under my blood moon video about, oh, well, be careful not to get into astrology. And, personally, the only astrology I knew was in my 20s when I looked at my horoscope. That was it. I didn't know anything at that time. But Nicholas decided to look into all of this. I said, we should really look into what this is all about and just figure this out. So he has all that information, but before I do that, I just want to remind you what Elder Vasilius has said on this blood moon. He says, after the red moon, it will all begin. Everyone will see it visible on the horizon. As the sun rules the day, the moon will burn crimson like flame, he warned. Then the decision makers must be prepared, for it is written that the godless will invade the island and innocent blood will be shed. So he is using the blood moon as a sign. And so let's find out from Nicholas what all this means.
So for a little context on my side, Mom was sharing with me, comments on her videos and concerning this one in particular. And she was, she was a little bit distressed, and people were like, "Whoa, be careful about astrology and all this." And I was like, "Okay." And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, what is astrology? Do these people even know what astrology is and what it means? Because the way that they're warning, they're not really giving any firm lines in the sand, or what constitutes as it and what doesn't. They're just being saying, "Oh no, you gotta be wary, you gotta be," this seems like it's going into that. So I was like, well, the first thing that we must figure out is, what is astrology? What's its history? Where did it come from? How has it evolved? And, astrology has evolved. It started in early Mesopotamia. The Babylonians used it, and ironically, it was very different compared to what it is today. It was more using the stars and the moon and things like that to um, tell for, like, if a famine was coming and things like that. And obviously, that gets more into prophetic omen sort of stuff that they used at that time, because that's, you know there must have been a precedent that they felt that became reliable. And then the Greeks came in and used it later, and that's where the zodiac signs come from and all that. And then it went into medieval Europe, and with Christianity, I think, in the Western Church, and then that was a whole thing. And then it evolved later, and then we have the whole New Age stuff with horoscopes and things like that. So it's actually evolved quite a lot since its inception. Still, um, I think there is a bit of a confusion of what exactly astrology is compared to what this elder is saying, because there's a very big difference. And the core thing is, with astrology, is it claims this. It claims that the stars or celestial bodies control human fate, which is like, oh, if something, I don't know, let's say we use the blood moon. Oh, if the blood moon is out tonight, that means so and so is going to die from these causes, and they'll say exactly what that is. And what they're saying is, because the blood moon has happened, it is now, this will happen to this person or these groups of people or whatever. um, and basically, you don't have any control in that. It's not. It's very it's very railroading your fate based on whatever happens.
So no human free will.
No,
Okay.
basically, they don't believe in that. Astrology doesn't believe in the
Right.
concept of free will.
Okay.
It's about,
That's an important point.
yeah, that's basically what it is. So, whereas, Christianity is more talking about how the stars and such are part of, God's creation, and they may occasionally show us signs, but they do not determine our destiny. So when the elder is talking about that blood moon, he's talking about events that it's more of a sign of events to come, but never any specifics. And that's the key. We know that from other prophecies, these things will happen, um, but he doesn't specify when. We don't know how long after the blood moon. We don't know to exactly what groups of people, whatever. We just know certain events are signified that they will come to pass soon, based on this sign. And I think that's the big thing to keep in mind, is this is a difference between signs and destiny. There's a difference between an omen, which gives a possibility or a warning, compared to something that is deemed as your destiny, something that,
So more permanent.
yeah.
Mm.
Whereas an omen isn't permanent, but it can come to pass depending on, obviously, those in power and people's free will and all that. So the core difference is, I'd written a little few notes here. The heavens, in astrology, the heavens cause or determine events, and the Christian understanding is, God may use the heavens as signs, but they do not control fate. Another way to put it is, astrology treats the cosmos as a mechanism of destiny. Christianity treats it as creation that God can use symbolically. The stars are not powers governing humanity, but objects created by God. And that's the big thing. So I then went in and I wanted to, of course, look at passages in scriptures and stuff. And I thought it was very interesting that this one thing that we actually say during a Tuesday Vespers during Great Lent, like the first week, is actually this passage right here from Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 to 19. It says, "Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven for illumination to divide the day from night. Let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years. Let them be for illumination in the firmament of heaven to give light on the earth. It was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God sent them in the firmament of heaven to give light on the earth and to rule over the day and over the night and to divide the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. So evening and morning were the fourth day." So as you can see near the beginning, it's, the stars and the lights of heaven, the heavens. Let them be for the signs and seasons, for days and years. So, essentially they were used to tell time, you know, to allow us to understand things, and that God could use them to, to warn us of anything that were to happen, that were to come. These. I mean, look at the whole thing with the. I'm losing my thing, but what was it? What Moses did for the Pharaoh. All the warnings that he did, and how God permitted these things to happen as signs that he needed to listen, that his heart needed to soften, and release the people, his people.
Well, before you go further into that, I just want to remind people that the first thing that came to my mind on that was the North Star. That was what the Magi used to find Christ in his manger. So a star was used for them to find direction to get to the Christ child. So I think that's an important example as well.
Yep. And I also pulled from a New Testament.
Yes.
A New Testament thing from Luke chapter 21, verses 25 to 28. It says, "And there will be," and this is actually called under the Orthodox Study Bible, it's called cosmic signs. "And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, in the stars, and on the earth, distress of nations, whither perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near." What's interesting is, it's, God basically saying that he's using these things, his creation, as a way to signify his, before his second coming, and also to,
Yes, they saw Christ.
Yep. Yeah.
There was something you read, something about dancing. It reminded me of the unnamed elder that was talking about how the earth would dance because of the missiles. So that kind of reminds me of how the earth responds or reacts to what happens on from the humans, let alone regular nature.
Yeah. So, and the final thing, I normally don't like to look at Revelation too much, and I really don't want to, talk about what it means and all that. But there was a whole part talking about at least the symbolic use of cosmic disturbances regarding seal 6. This is Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 to 14. "I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place." So I guess
there was the red moon,
yes,
blood moon.
Yes, and so I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, even in scriptures, there was also another passage I read from Joel that had a whole thing on the blood moon as well, talking about red moons and stuff like that. This is not a unusual
Yeah,
thing.
so it would make the sense that the elder would use that because he would know the scriptures really well.
Mhm.
And so of course he would use that because it was used in the scriptures, it was used in the faith. So yeah, great to know.
So the basic closing statement I'll say is the biblical use of celestial imagery functions as a sign accompanying divine action, not as a system where the stars determine human fate, which is the central claim of astrology.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
for those that are worried now and that we're confused about what exactly astrology is, well, there you go. And obviously there are some similarities. They both use the cosmic signs for things. The difference is the end output is different. We don't say it determines anything. We just view them as warnings, whereas they determine it as fate or destiny. So very different.
Okay, well, I don't know if you all knew all that, but we learned a lot when we looked this up, especially in the scriptures. It was really fascinating to us. So we wanted to share all of those fascinating, intriguing pieces with you. Yeah, if you have any thoughts on that, you can share it in the chat. I'd be happy to read it and see what you all say. Any questions on that or on any of this so far? Because really all of that is kind of connected in a way, this whole thing that we've been talking about with the blood moon, with the war that's happening, everything is kind of just connected. So you all can share your thoughts if you need to or want to.
It was also kind of interesting that all the planets aligned recently too, around the same time that this war has come up. And one of the things that I saw that, early astrology said was like, they were saying, oh, certain things like, oh, famine or war. And I was like, well, they may have been off, but considering a war happened right around the time the planets aligned, I just thought it was kind of an interesting coincidence.
And I saw that on a news feed the day it actually happened, when they struck Iran. I saw this, advertisement, from NASA or something, I don't remember. Oh, look at that, look how nicely the planets are aligned. And I was like, okay, because we already know that things like that can affect the Earth. Well, we know that because of how the Earth is in the atmosphere and, in the universe and in space. So of course, earthquakes, things like that can happen.
Well, it's
and says, I sure have. It sure has helped me to understand. Well, that's great.
I'm glad. Another thing to think about too is this isn't just, cosmic stuff. I mean, look at God using, the crow and the dove and other animals. These God uses his creation to help us understand things, or, try to be wary of certain things well before they happen. Because in a way, it's an act of his mercy and love for us. He doesn't want us to be in the dark about these things. He wants us to be aware. So that way we can pray and we can fast and we can repent and we can change the course of these things. That's the big difference. When these things happen, they're not meant to railroad us. They're meant to call us to repentance and prayer. So that way we can change, what is foretold to us as a warning.
What you said about the animals, I want to remind people that if y'all are around my age, you remember when Mount St. Helens erupted, in Washington State, and the animals in the farm were quite disturbed right before the volcano happened. The pigs were squealing, the dogs are barking. So they can sense these things, and it's always important to listen to that, because again, God is everywhere. It's his creation. So it's good to keep these in mind when things happen, so that you're, as he said, you're aware and you can pray and all of that. So I hope that helps everyone understand. It sure did for me. It was great. I loved all that he, you shared, Nicholas, Nico. So that's mainly the things I wanted to talk about this time. But also, I wanted to remind you that a video I put out yesterday was quite a touching and moving video about Saint Gabriel. You know, the drug addict that encountered Saint Gabriel. And I really, if you're wanting to find some, you want to feel joy and peace and uplifted, and you know, happy tears, as I said. I have. I've watched that my own video, but I've watched it several times because um, it really does make me, you know, I feel so much better, and it's a perfect thing to think about during Lent as well. You know, while we're going through Lent, and what are you saying? Oh, YouTube took station for I was going to tell you I have been hearing wolves first time, and my brain is going so fast. Well, yeah. Are you in an area? I guess you're in an area where wolves. Where are you? I forget. Are you in Indiana? I forget where you are. It has been so different. Well, yeah, wolves have been brought back into the certain areas of the country. I remember that.
Do you maybe I want to end with this on my part.
Okay.
Talking a little bit about Nebraska.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Oh, you're right next to our state. Yeah.
I was going to say, I know Mom already did a video on this, so I don't want to harp on it too much because I think she did a good enough job talking about the whole thing with the Fanar and the whole Pascal thing, but that came across for me, and I started looking into it, and I grew exceedingly very upset because there's a lot of really important stuff there that you know, there's a reason why, you know, first, I guess I should say this. I don't think people realize that the Gregorian calendar comes from a pope. Okay, this was made by Pope Gregory the 13th, and it was done because of this whole fear of, I don't know if we can keep to the whole ecumenical council that happened in Nicaea at this time, and you know, it's the actual calendar is drifting so much from the Julian and all that. Well, the church has already established that like March 21st is the start of spring. They just kind of mark that. And sometimes it fluctuates based on, you know, the equinox and things like that. But the basic point is it's around that time. But there's three things that are so important for that. You know, it was the whole thing with that it has to happen, it must not coincide or precede the Passover. You know, Pascha must happen after the Passover, and then talking about it must happen on a Sunday. You know, the resurrection must happen on a Sunday. And for me, you know, and it has to happen after the first full moon of the spring equinox. So those three things, those are the three most important. And the thing is that it's very clear that Christ fulfilled the Jewish Passover when he partook. And why did he pick that whole time for the Last Supper and all that? And he had leavened bread and such during it was leavened bread during that's why
the Last Supper.
Yeah, the Last Supper.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's why it was so important.
I thought you were just talking about the Passover.
No, but and so the very first Passover, as you remember in Exodus, was so important because a lot of it was a foreshadowing of what Christ would come to do later. And so when he died and, you know, did all those things during that time, it was to show the fulfillment of what he was originally going to do and had promised the people of Israel, which I wanted to say that when I was looking back at these things, I found this interesting passage that aligns very well with what these Jews and Israelis have been saying about the promised land, and we, you know, this, that, and the other, and it's hereditary, it's genetic. Well, not in their own scriptures, it isn't. In fact, it says in Exodus, it says, then the children of Israel journeyed from the Ramses to Sukkoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides their belongings. A mixed multitude also went up with them, along with their sheep, oxen, and a great deal of cattle. Now, what is the mixed multitude? Well, if you look at the footnotes here and you see what it says a mixed multitude of Gentiles also went with Israel because they believed. But those who wished to partake of Pascha had to be circumcised. Similarly, baptism is the door to the Eucharist. So, as you can see, God's chosen people are those who follow his way. You didn't have to be a Jew, through genetics. It wasn't about that. It's about you following God's teachings and, being baptized, or at that time, circumcised. Baptism is the new way to enter and become part of his people. So this whole idea that, they promised us this land, well, not really. If you haven't followed Christ, then that promise isn't there for you. And that promise isn't, I think, is a bit more symbolic than quite literal. So anyways, I just thought all that was very interesting when I was reading all that. And, they have the whole Paschal regulations here. I really encourage you to look in Exodus. This is in chapter 12, verse 37, and then you can go all the way to 13. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff. I loved Exodus and Leviticus a lot because a lot of the rules and things that are in there we're still doing today. So this whole idea that they don't matter anymore, these things don't matter, baffles me because we're still doing a lot of the things that are in there. So
yes, well, there's always that saying, when Christ was on earth, if he didn't say something about whatever was in the, was the rule or the practice, then that is a given that it stayed, and that whatever was said before was okay. It was what it was supposed to be. What he changed was what needed to be changed. So to fulfill the covenant. So anyway, I hope you all found that fascinating. We were fascinated by all this information, and we want to share it with you.
It's appropriate for Great Lent, I think,
it is.
to look back to the scriptures and connect things, especially to today. The things that are going on, and a lot of spiritual stuff is coming up from beneath the ground, so to speak. It's coming to the surface.
Yeah.
So I think now is as good a time as any to really be looking back through scriptures and carefully sitting with, what was said.
You're welcome, Skibbity.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for being here and listening to us. It helps to have somebody there. I mean, it'd be kind of weird if we were just talking to nobody, but you never know. So anyway, it was great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ann.
Yes, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you guys for all your support and for all that you do with helping my channel. Yep. So appreciate it, and God bless you all. And of course, we continue on in this great Lent. Do the best we can. I've been stumbling and trying, and it's been difficult, but I'm not giving up. Keep trying. And we just keep doing our prayers. We go to our service. We do repenting, and all that we need to do. And that's that's the thing we have to thank God for, that we have this Lent. That we're able to do this. We're able to go to church. We're able to receive communion. We're able to listen to the hymns. We're able to read the scriptures, and even on the saints. These are really great blessings right now that we have. So let's try to keep on that road of dedication, as I would say. So. So anyway, thanks all everyone for coming and visiting with us. Our own little fellowship. And if you haven't seen the drug addict and saint, and you want to feel peace and joy other than through all the things I mentioned, just watch that once in a while. I do that. I listen to it going to work. I listen to it coming back from work, and it really helps me to keep focused on what is important. So thanks so much. And thanks so much, everybody. And until next time, the next week, when we do our next live stream, and then I'll probably have a couple videos this week. So
let's pray that things improve and not worsen.
Yes, we pray for lesser
Mhm.
catastrophes, of course.
Mhm.
God has mercy on us. So God bless you all. Until next time.